Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Voicebox, the official podcast of the IHS Voice. This episode is part 3 of a 4-part series, in which we interview students from all 4 grades and ask them how they felt about in-person learning versus distance learning. For part 3, we're going to have student Life Editor Sadhana again, but this time she's going to interview Harshana, who's a junior at Irvington. Stay tuned till the end of the interview and hope you enjoy.
So, first of all, how was online learning for you, just in general?
I think online learning was really productive for me. I felt like I was able to manage all my work much better
Than like in-person school?
Yeah, I felt like I had a lot more time in between classes to do homework and extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm. And what kinds of, were you able to get into more extracurriculars, or was it just maintaining your extracurriculars and doing better at them? How would that work?
I did have time to explore a lot of other things, but mostly I just worked on spending more time on the extracurriculars that I was already in. I got to learn like what I was good at, what I needed to work on, and I did have time to work on those aspects as well. So I think I improved a lot.
I see. And what kinds of extracurriculars would you do? Like, were they generally speaking in person, or was like that sort of transition to virtual stuff like easy to comprehend?
Well, I am part of a club called IHS Voice, Bay Area Student Activists, and activism has been something that I was like interested in for a while, but I never really had time to devote to that aspect. But because of online learning, I had time to delve into that, and I was able to form Irvington Basta last year with a few other friends who were interested in activism as well. So being able to explore that and seeing what we could do for the community was a great opportunity that I wouldn't have gotten a chance to do if it weren't for online learning.
I see. And so the club's whole beginnings began like as something virtual. So then as you've been in-person school, is that shift like different, or has it just been more of the same thing but more effort put into it now?
It's actually very different. We just had our intro meeting last week, and I learned that just like the environment is really different when you're in a classroom with people rather than being on Zoom. And definitely think that we're gonna have to put a lot more effort this year, especially since that we can actually have in-person events this year. So planning that will be a lot more effort, but also more fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can transfer the events we did online to in-person events this year.
I see. And so you mentioned that you were also just doing better in your regular extracurriculars in general. So what kinds of extracurriculars were those, and how did that transition like change your like learning?
Well, one thing that I do is singing. I've been singing since I was in 3rd grade. And as like I got older, I wasn't able to spend a lot of time on that. Like from middle school itself, I just had a lot of work, and being able to manage singing and homework and everything else going on was really hard. But because of online learning, staying home like all the time gave me a lot of time to think about singing, and like I got a lot of time to work on like my own vocals, and that was really helpful for me. And it also gave me confidence in like pursuing a little bit more. So I think I improved a lot over online learning. I was able to devote a lot of time and think about what it really means to me.
I see. And I know that for a lot of people, like structure during the pandemic was really, really hard to maintain. So you said that you were actually managing pretty well in virtual school. So what kinds of things were you doing? And especially after that initial shift, how were you trying to maintain some sort of routine to, stay on top of your work?
Well, first of all, just having more time felt like I was more in control. Obviously, it was hard at first, like such a huge transition in such little time was like kind of chaotic at the beginning. But as soon as I realized that I have more control over what's going on now because I have all the time to myself and school doesn't take up that much time anymore, I was able to plan out everything much more efficiently and actually stick to the plan because now I have motivation because I don't feel like things are out of control anymore. And I tried a lot of different techniques, like one technique, the Pomodoro method to study. That was something that I tried. And, I just had a lot of time to experiment to see like how long it takes me to get into like a focus zone, how long I should spend on each activity, when I should take breaks and what time of the day I work best. I just had a lot of time to experiment. And once I got into that rhythm and I found out what works for me, I realized that I was being much more productive than I was before online learning.
I see. And I know that a lot of, especially upperclassmen, generally tried self-studying APs or doing work like that. So by any chance, do you do any of those kinds of things outside of your regular schoolwork?
No, I didn't actually self-study anything related to school. Like I said, I try to focus more on expanding like my creativity and extracurricular activities, and especially with IHS Voice, starting a new club was a lot of work and that took a lot of my time. But I definitely think going back to like online learning, I would have maybe tried to maybe self-study an AP or like self-study anything like that I'm interested in, any course that I'm interested in. I think I definitely would have had time to do that. Especially now, like when we're in person, I realize how little time I have and how busy we are right now. I think I should have taken advantage of that time I had.
I see. And kind of like back, like when you were in like the pandemic, right? So, around that time, like because we couldn't go outside and stuff, like you mentioned, there was a lot more free time. So, other than like, keeping busy with your extracurriculars and regular work, what kinds of things would you be doing to fill up that time?
I started reading a lot during quarantine and online learning. I like reading was something that I like completely stopped doing once I came to high school, and I thought that this was a good time to pick it up again. And I was looking into like what genres I like and discovering my favorite authors, and that's what I mostly spent my extra time doing. I would just read a lot. I don't think I went outside that much. And I tried exercising for a bit. Like I would try doing like home workouts, and well, that didn't work out that great. I stopped doing it after like a few weeks. I lost motivation. But yeah, reading is like the main thing that I would do with my extra time.
To be honest, like I'm surprised you were able to do that. Like I had to do online PE, like 0 period PE, and that was like the most amount of physical exercise I got during like online school.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep motivation.
Yeah. And kind of along that lines, like as you like were doing school online, I know a lot of people felt like the work was so much more easier because like it was just online and like there wasn't as much of the stress and duress of like in-person work. So was that sort of the thing with you, or how did your like actual academics like flow through for you?
Yeah, I felt the same way as like a lot of people that you mentioned. I felt like it was much, much less work and much easier. I mean, at that time, that was great. I felt like I didn't spend that much time doing homework and like I was able to get good grades in my classes easily. But now I feel like I'm kind of struggling transitioning back into like the normal like rigor that you get at Irvington. And especially like it being my junior year, it's really hard going from like having barely any homework to spending like 5-6 hours on homework every day. And yeah, it's pretty hard, but like if I maybe tried a little bit harder last year, or like I said before, self-studied, then maybe it would have been easier for this transition. But yeah, it was nice having less work anyway.
Right. And like at the same time, you did say that you were keeping on top of most of your things online pretty well. So like, how were you able to stay really that motivated to even try to do stuff?
Honestly, I think it just depends on the person. For some people, like even some of my friends, they felt like they were really out of control when it came to online learning, and they didn't have like the same level of productivity or motivation, being isolated from everyone else. But for me, I just like spending a lot of time with myself in general. So having that opportunity through online learning felt like I was in control, and I felt like more stable, I guess. So that's like pretty much the only thing that like drove me. Yeah, but like I think it just really depends on the person.
I see. Yeah. So really being able to keep grounded no matter like whatever is going outside, and having that inside sort of bubble is like kind of what you're getting at. I can totally understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is something we can all relate to, but Wi-Fi glitches. Like, would you have any of those really bad internet connections, or like a really dumb story that happened because something decided to just go off in the middle of your classes?
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So what happened basically was that we were actually moving houses in between like online learning. So when we moved to our new house, the Wi-Fi wasn't actually set up in my room yet, and I had to use data, and it was like a mess. And then once the Wi-Fi was set up, like the connection was really bad. Like the router was just in a bad place. So I had like really bad Wi-Fi for a few weeks, and it was really sad. Like some classes where teachers expect you to like participate a lot, or they want you to talk, and you would like unmute your mic, and then no one can hear what you're saying, and then you know that, but like it's super awkward for you too. That happened a lot in those few weeks, and it was really embarrassing for me. Yeah, I hate Wi-Fi glitches.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like when that happened, the only thing that kept me going was the fact that it wasn't like an in-person glitch or something, and like at least there's a screen kind of just like protecting me from the hate.
From the hate, yeah.
All right. So now we'll go to some more in-person related questions. So how did you feel when you found out we were first gonna have school back in person again?
I had mixed feelings. I was really happy because I could finally like come back on campus, and I could be with my friends, and that's something that I really missed out on the past year. And sports were starting again, which was super exciting. My sport, I do wrestling, and it got canceled during my sophomore year because it's a contact sport, and obviously with COVID restrictions and online learning, we couldn't do that. But now that we're in person again, my training started again, and we'll actually be able to have a season hopefully this year. So that was something that I was super really excited for. But yeah, like I said before, I had mixed feelings too, because I knew that it was going to be a lot of work going into the junior year in person, and especially like having that much of a break before like the whole sophomore year being like super easy. I didn't know how I was going to transition back, and I was kind of scared for that.
I see. And like sports, I know a lot of them did end up getting canceled. So how has the preparation for wrestling been going? Is it like something where you've had to, like brush off the rusted skills, or like something you've been like able to jump back into pretty quickly?
Well, I definitely did not jump back into it very quickly. First few weeks at training were really hard, especially because wrestling is just one of those sports where there was no way for you to practice over quarantine and like online learning, it's a contact sport. Like that's how you get COVID, by wrestling. So I had to like completely abandon it over online learning, and because of that, it was kind of hard the first few weeks, especially like getting back into shape, and then working on some of the moves that I forgot over like the past year. But it was definitely worth it. I think I'm like much better now, and I've improved a lot. So yeah, like it was hard, but it was worth it.
I see. And what were like some sort of like the things you prepared for, like your essentials of back to school stuff that you kept for like, in-person school?
I obviously had like all the like COVID related stuff, like hand sanitizer, extra masks, and like mints and stuff. Other than that, I don't think anything has really changed. I just like am more careful around school. I try not to like go into crowded places, which is really hard at Irvington, like considering how crowded like the hallways get during passing period. But yeah, I'm just like more aware of my surroundings. It's more of like the mindset that changed rather than like what I'm bringing to school.
Right. And or like around the same thing, like how has your daily routine changed? Like especially from online to the new in-person sort of schooling and the pre-pandemic in-person schooling to now?
Well, I feel way less productive now, but I'm busy all the time. It's really weird because I feel like I'm always like doing something. I go to school, I come back from school, and then I spend like hours doing homework, and then I go to practice and I come back and I'm like doing homework again for like until 12 or 1 a.m. But at the same time, I just don't feel like it's as productive as I was during my sophomore year. Even though I slept on time during my sophomore year, I had like less than half the amount of work I have. And my freshman year, I feel like I was like just getting into high school. So it was kind of like I was like on this high where I was like super productive, and I like was trying a bunch of new things, and I was able to fit so much into my day. And I was able to do so many different things. I don't know how I managed that and like didn't get tired, but yeah, that's like each year has been super different for me. So yeah, there's like very little similarities between how productive I have been and how my mindset toward like the year has been throughout high school.
I see. And what are the kinds of courses you're taking right now? And like kind of along the lines of like the copious amounts of homework you're doing, like how has that really affected the way you've been like keeping your motivation up and everything?
Well, I try to be careful with the courses I picked this year and try to focus on like courses that were not giving that much work, but at the same time had like academic rigor. So I took AP Chemistry and AP English from like those are the only two AP courses I took, and I thought that those AP courses would allow me to like really work and focus on the material, but at the same time, I would still have time for other extracurricular activities and practice. So yeah, and that's basically how it's been going, like just as I expected. I have to spend a lot of time like learning the content, but at the same time, I'm not taking like notes on like 3 or 4 chapters every day, and it's not a lot of memorization work, so it's easier for me to spend time on other things as well.
Right, definitely. And I think like, especially with other AP courses like AP United States History, APUSH, like you get that sort of memorization. So definitely having that balance is really important.
Yeah.
So what do you think of your new course load? Has it been like very jarring, or was it expected and just something you needed to lean back into kind of?
It was expected, but it's still jarring. Like I knew I was going to die this year with the course load, but I'm still dying with the course load. It's a lot of work. And like I told you before, like the transition makes it way harder. I think if we never went online, and we just had in-person school, and I was taking the same courses that I'm taking this year, but we didn't have an online to in-person transition from sophomore year, then I would have dealt with the courses much better. But now it's just like, I'm kind of a mess right now. Still trying to figure it out, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, school's just really started. It's only been a couple of months, but everything is pretty heavy. And like, kind of along that lines, like, how do you think your teachers have transitioned from online to in-person? Do you think they've like been doing a good job with like, teaching or bringing people up to speed on everything again?
Yeah, I think the teachers have been doing great. One thing I noticed is that a lot of teachers have been like taking the skills tools that they use during in-person learning and the new tools and skills that they acquired during online learning and platforms, and then they've been like combining it together this year, and that's like really cool. It's been super helpful. For example, a lot of my teachers are using Google Classroom a lot more, and we're doing a lot more online work combined with like in-person work, and that's like really helpful. It's a good balance of everything, and it's been working out great for me and a lot of my like friends and classmates. So I think teachers have done a great job transitioning and like using all the experiences they've had over the past years and like making the best out of it and giving us a good education.
I see. And is there anything you'd like to see more of from them, or is it just something that, like, over time you get used to the work and stuff?
I think teachers, well, not all teachers, but there's definitely some teachers on campus that I think should try to understand where we're coming from and like our point of view a little bit more. Like they need to understand that the transition isn't easy for us as well, and how much course load we get. I think there's like some people who just need to be more aware of that. But in general, like I think teachers are doing really great, and there's nothing that I feel like I should say or criticize about them, because like they've been working so hard over the over online learning, and they've been doing a lot for us. So I don't feel like I should even like criticize them at all.
I see. How about your peers? How do you think they've been transitioning in general between online and in-person schooling?
Well, everyone is different, right? Some people hated in-person learning, some people hate online learning. So everyone has like different feelings about coming back in person. Of course, everyone's going through a change and everyone's dealing with that really differently. I have some friends who would love to go back to online learning actually, and they felt much better mentally when we were doing online learning. And then there's some people who just feel more comfortable right now in in-person learning, and it's working out much better for them. So yeah, I feel like you just need to ask like every single person about their own experiences and to see like how they transition back.
I see. And what do you think learning will be like moving forward? Do you expect school to stay in person?
In the future?
Yeah, or at least over the course of this year.
Oh, over the course of this year. I don't know. I actually at the beginning of what was it? The end of August, that's when school started. I thought that we would go back and we would go back to online learning really quickly. And I'm actually kind of surprised that it hasn't happened yet. And we're like maintaining this pretty well. Like we're dealing with COVID in an okay way, I guess, at school. So considering how things are going, I feel like we actually might be staying in-person learning for quite a while, which is actually kind of shocking to me. But I mean, I guess it's good. Like that means sports can continue and you can still see people in person.
So overall, you're kind of digging with the in-person changes then?
Yeah, it's okay. Again, it's like a love-hate relationship. I I don't know. There's like so many things that I wish I could go back to, but at the same time, I'm grateful for being in person again.